So that's a beer from Suarez.
Yeah.
I went up there to brew with Dan Suarez. But yeah, we were just chatting about bitter, and he's like, I'm actually brewing a batch soon. Do you want to just come up and hang for the brew day? And I was like, of course, it'd be fun.
Welcome back to the Brew Dat Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum. And today we have on Al Upshaw from
Concrete Blues.
From Concrete Blues.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit outside, but I don't know much about you. I don't know much about Concrete Blues.
Yeah.
We tried to listen to the Steal This Beer podcast. I guess that was after it was Philly Beer Week.
That was the day before Log Jammin'.
Oh, was it really?
I think so.
Okay.
It was a lot of drinking during the episode. So, we've tried to find out about you and Concrete Blues.
Yeah.
I actually called Kyle from Carbon Copy yesterday. He gave me a little bit of insight. But I think it's best if we just learn all about you and Concrete Blues as we go. So, Can you give a little bit of background on, how you got into brewing?
Yeah.
I was told that you came up from Orlando, how that all happened. How did you land in Philly? How did Concrete Blues happen? How do we get here?
Yeah, how do I even start? I guess
we'll start from the beginning. So at some point you moved up from
the beginning. I moved to Philadelphia in 2012, and I wanted to get into cooking. Back home, it was like the industry was pretty slow at the time. I go home now, it's like kind of how it is all over the place. New places popping up here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time, it wasn't what Philadelphia was offering, and I just kind of wanted to be in a more fast-paced city. So me and a best friend moved up, and I just jumped right in.
And when was this?
2012.
Cool.
Of that year. I moved up. I wanted to get into cooking, and just kind of worked all over the city in various restaurants. Some restaurants that aren't around anymore. I think a restaurant like Marigold Kitchen I was at, or Amano is still around.
Yeah.
Helm is another restaurant that's still around.
Cool.
Just wanted to cook. And as far as with the beer, I've always been a fan of beer. They're both of those things I think go hand in hand.
Definitely.
So I worked in various restaurants around the city, and it was just like, all right, I'm kind of wanted to get into something else, and always had an interest with beer, just being into craft beer in general.
Yeah.
So Tired Hands was hiring. This is 2018, 19.
In the kitchen or in the brewery?
In the kitchen.
Cool.
In the kitchen. So this is 2019.
Yeah.
And I was like, can work for them. Maybe I'll get close to the beer, the food.
Get your foot in the door.
And so I helped open their restaurant, St. Wonders in Fishtown up here.
Cool.
And, that was February, right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so we were like a restaurant for maybe a month, and then COVID hit. And then, we all kind of lost our jobs. And Kyle and Brendan at the time were getting ready to start Carbon Copy.
Yeah.
And Colin reached out to me. Colin reached out to me.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, we're gonna have some space in the brewery. You've been in the beer. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, that'd be really cool. And
wait, Colin?
Colin McFadden from Meetinghouse now.
Okay. Cool.
Did the interview, and that was kind of my foot in the door as to the professional side of brewing. Before that, it's just all home brewing and whatnot.
So you were helping out with Meetinghouse?
No, this is.
Because he was at Tired Hands before that.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
We're all
everything's very connected.
I know all these guys through Tired Hands.
Yeah.
So Brendan and Kyle were leaving, and we worked there a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
as they were gearing up for, Carbon Copy.
They were at Tired Hands too for a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Kyle's head brewer over there, and then Brendan was kind of managing the other facilities, all the, saisons and mixed cultured stuff.
Cool.
And so I was at Tired Hands for about a couple years. I actually originally brewed my first Concrete Blues beer with them, with Colin. It was a beer called Bronze Label, same style, pub ale. And yeah, we did I was just doing food pop-ups under just my name as myself.
At breweries, or where were you doing these things?
Just wherever, honestly. Honestly, yeah. It's like.
And you had beer at this, the first beer you were putting out?
I was just as before beer, it was just all food. And
okay.
That's every cook, they're you want to open your own space eventually. And so that was the idea for me, even before just being in high school, I've just always wanted to, start my own thing.
Yeah.
And so food was my thing, and then the beer came along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started getting into craft beer more and more, it was just why not do both,
What food would you make during your pop-ups?
So yeah, at the time, my the style of food I like to cook now has changed from what from first getting into cooking, and it's more kind of fine dining dishes and whatnot. But now I'm aiming for just simple snacks, small plates that people would want to have at the bar that goes well with beer.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I feel the food that I try to put on the table now is just something that can pair well with pub ale.
And where did the pub ale come from? Because Tired Hands, I don't think, was known as a pub brewery.
Yeah, no, we there's when I was there,
which is funny because Carbon Copy does make some pub style ales.
Yeah.
And Meetinghouse does make these pub style ales, and you guys all know each other from Tired Hands, but Tired Hands was making that.
A lot of being at Tired Hands, it was a lot of the heavier IPAs.
It's you guys did the opposite of that.
So whenever we brewed lagers or something else, it was cool. This
is rebellious.
This is something we can do different. But yeah, my time at Tired Hands was I started off packaging there, and then moved to the cellar, and I was in the cellar for a bit, and then I introduced the idea. That's when I pretty much started Concrete Blues. I want to create a brand that has food and beer, and I just, when it came to the craft beer I like to drink, it was pub ale. And I love all styles of beers, but the pub ales just spoke the most to me.
It's a good time to do pub ale.
I guess so. The pub ale spoke the most to me, and I just went all in. And so yeah, we put out that first beer. It was called Bronze Label. It was similar recipe build.
Yeah.
Except we open fermented, and then we threw nitro on it, so it was nitro dose cans.
Very cool.
Which was cool.
And you did that at Tired Hands?
I was at Tired Hands, yeah.
Okay, but it was under your Concrete Blues label.
Concrete Blues, yeah. And
cool.
then we did a little event for it. This is I don't even know. That was a time where we were still kind of locked down, but
yeah, the mid.
Yeah, it was you can so it was a total takeout thing.
Yeah.
Which was cool that we brewed that beer, and so that was the first beer that I brewed. So after Tired Hands, Kyle and Brendan reached out, and they're like, "You wanna come join us over here at Carbon Copy? We're trying to open up soon."
Yeah.
And I was like, no brainer. I really enjoyed, the short time working with those guys over at Tired Hands.
Yeah.
And, we talked about doing beer, and they knew I had the background in food, so.
Yeah, probably perfect. They want you to be a part of this. You kind of see both sides of it.
It was, they brought me in. We were, they were just trying to get the space open. So, I was there painting and all that stuff. And we did the whole, it was me and Bill, trying to think of menu ideas and food development and stuff like that. And then, once we were open, that was where we were. And, all the beers were great and the food was great. And, we're finally getting some buzz. And that's when I kind of phased myself out of the kitchen to start pushing this beer.
Cool.
So, yeah. And
then Meetinghouse, because now you're bartending at Meetinghouse
yeah, I'm
too.
over there, yeah. So, and it was cool seeing both spaces open. I was, their first night of Meetinghouse opening.
Definitely. I mean, the most important part of any bar or restaurant is the opening.
Yeah.
I mean, now you've seen 2 very successful openings. I mean, both those places are 2 of the coolest new breweries in the city.
Yeah, I mean, it's also my first time behind the bar. When I reached out to Colin about it, I was like, it'd be cool to be behind a bar before I open my own bar.
Yeah.
And he was like, no brainer. So, so yeah, day one, it was him and I, and we were just, pushing beers, and it was a good time. And,
nice.
And then that's when we decided to do some events. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to bring some cask beer over there. And it's just been cool to to get a lot of support from those guys, from being able to be behind the bar, to push this beer, and to get to talk about it with the guests and whatnot.
Definitely.
So it's just been going really well as far as this beer.
Yeah, and it's just this one style right now?
Yeah, so that's the whole plan. Is I just want to push one beer.
Yeah.
I mean, when I do plan on brewing some other beers, I do like brewing beer.
Yeah.
But this is like the beer for me, it's...
Yeah, and you don't need any beyond this. I mean, you said that you're already in the kitchen, and like if you go into like a pub, like even Meetinghouse, they have 3 beers.
Yeah.
Just kind of style now, just like limit your beer selection. You don't need to have 25 things out at once.
Yeah.
And then just focus on like one singular thing, and then you can have the food where you can kind of mix stuff up.
For sure. Yeah. Again, it's like right now it's just myself pushing the brand. So I just try to think of other ways to stay as busy as I possibly can with it. It's just like really, pushing the brand.
You on like the beer fest like track at all? I know I saw you log jamming, but
yeah, we were at log jamming. I was, just helping over with Carbon Copy, pulling some beer, which is Bendal's like one of my favorite beers. And then next door to us, Wishful Thinking and Wild Fern and Bonn Place, we all did a collab for a beer, which was really cool. So it was cool to have that beer there, and people talking about cask and stuff, and it was cool to see at like a lager fest. We weren't the only ones that had like a lager on cask, which I thought was
well, I think a pub ale is like the... This is going to sound really stupid. It's like the lager version of an ale. It's like,
well, you say it's stupid, but that's why I want to push this one beer.
Yeah.
I think these beers are just as approachable as a lager.
Definitely.
And I think these beers need attention. Like,
they're just as approachable, but there's a little bit more range.
For sure.
It's like lagers can get very monotonous, and I think pub ales, there's a little bit more things you can do with them. And I think they are making a comeback. Like you see, I mean, Forest and Maine has always been pushing them.
Yeah.
Meetinghouse, with you has been pushing them, and I feel like 5-10 years ago, if you were to tell one of these cool breweries that they'd be brewing like English style pub ales, they'd be like, no, fuck off. That's not gonna sell.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of these beers, like Boddington's and Bluebird were like 2 beers that were just like, what is this? Like this is cool. And you bring up Forest and Maine, and they're like the only brewery that's like locally that's like truly pushing it, next to Bonn Place doing the same thing. And it just became such a don't even know how to put it. I don't know.
It just made sense, I guess.
I just like truly like just fell in love with the style.
Yeah.
I love all styles of beer, but something that was just so eye-catching about the style.
It's good to put I think it's better that people lean into stuff. Like, I mean, we just had Ruby on. He was just talking about, like, well, what's their thing? Like, they don't have a certain one singular thing, but it's Ruby that's making all the beer. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, the environment that they want to make in the tap room. Right. But, like, if your brand is kind of, like, leaning on this one style, it's, like, that, that is the brand. Like, you literally have the cask on the can itself.
Yeah, the cask stuff... You
should go. Have you been invited to Yards? Does the
Real Ale?
Yeah, the Real Ale.
I haven't been invited yet, but I was there this past Real Ale Fest, and it was such a good time.
Yeah.
You should be invited.
Yeah, I'll see what happens the next.
I should be invited too. I'll just say that, but.
But yeah, there are so many. Those events are cool. Seeing a lot of cask in just like one space.
Yeah.
And especially to a style that's like seems so unpopular.
But it's definitely making a comeback. Like the lower ABV styles, it's drinkable, it's approachable. It still tastes crafty.
Yeah, definitely. For me it was I just want to brew the beer that I like to drink.
Yes.
And this was like these are if I see it on a tap or some menu, I'm gonna grab it.
Yeah.
I want that pint. So it's always a go-to style for me. And if I'm not drinking, pub ales, it's like lager.
It is like everyone has to have like the Lucre faucets now.
Yeah.
And everyone's got to have like these like the weird pours with the foam, but like the beer engine is going to be just as cool. I like in like 2 or 3 years, every brewery is now going to have a beer engine. It's
yeah. I mean, it's another thing that drew me in. It's an aesthetic like.
It's part of the experience.
Yeah, and.
It's the same way as like a bartender making a cocktail. Like them making the cocktail in front of you is part of the experience.
Yeah,
someone pouring a beer in a unique way in a fun glass is part of it.
Yeah, I look at these pub ales. They're like. I don't know, almost like romantic in a way.
Yeah.
Like they're, I don't know. There's just the aesthetic that I really enjoy with these cask beers and the beer engine, and you can just deep dive on the beer engine itself, and then again, like the cask beer is just like it's a live beer, and they're different every pour, the next day.
Yeah.
So I think that's the fun part about it. And I think I'm pushing this pub ale more because I want people to recognize it. The style. I think the style is just so underrated and.
Is that kind of the vision that you want to have? Like eventually you want to have your own space. Is that kind of you want like Meetinghouse has the same feel where it's like a laid back, chill environment, easy food.
I love what we're doing over at Meetinghouse.
And your cask there, is it just behind the bar that your cask is set up there?
It actually is my setup behind the bar from my home.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because when we first opened, we didn't have one, but Colin was like. If you have any casks, I would love to serve it here. We like talking about beer and serving other styles of beer too.
Yeah.
So, it was just kind of a no-brainer to pour it there.
Are you pouring it anywhere else right now?
We get a lot of fun other beers in too. Yeah, that's kind of the deal. As far as cask. It's a little harder.
Yeah. Cask is a little bit harder. We had what's his name on Yards, Tom Kehoe on the other day, and they're the only ones I know that are like distributing casks anywhere. He mentioned 2 other places, but it's like I've never really seen them out and about, and it's just like you are working at Meetinghouse, so it's kind of easy for you to manage that.
Yeah, there's as far as how I'm getting it out there. We brew the beer, and then I break it down between cans, mostly kegs, and then I'll firkin off some or cask off some. Like Local 44, they have an engine. They're usually into serving some.
Nice.
There might be still some on tap over there.
Cool.
But yeah, I just kind of seek out,
just different opportunities.
My favorite spaces.
I mean, like you said, it's only you right now, so.
Yeah, it's all I kind of just self-distro it, or I am just self-distroing it, and whoever's willing to, usually spots I'm like a fan of, or if some spot hits me up and they're like, "Can you get some?" Like, of course.
Yeah, you don't have the time or energy to be like giving beer to people that don't want it.
Yeah,
it's like there's a lot of brands that are just like, they just need to get volume out. It's like kind of part of it, but like you're trying to nurture this brand.
Yeah. I drive around with like cans, and I'll maybe I'll drop off some samples there. Maybe I am trying to get it again. I want this beer to get a lot of attention. So if I can get it wherever I can, that's a big thing for me. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then did you do the can on? And you said it was like in 2020. When did you do your first one at Tired Hands?
That was 2019.
2019. And
2020.
you said it was your first Concrete Blues. Did you have the brand kind of already built out in your head?
So yeah, I like before I was like, I want to put beer out. I was more so just doing like, I eventually will open a restaurant.
Yeah.
I wanted to do food. But as I just, started getting into brewing more, home brewing, and eventually working at Tired Hands, and then working at other, getting into other spaces that are, on a professional level of brewing, it was like just kind of, let's do both, I was, kind of phasing myself out of cooking anyways. I just needed a life change, And once
I think you're in a unique situation, because what I'm doing is I'm finding a food partner, and it's the same thing that a lot of the other breweries, Human Robot, Two Locals, they find a food partner, because I don't want to deal with the kitchen, because that is so foreign to me. I don't know anything about it. But you actually have experience doing it for many years. It's like you're in a much different position than a lot of people are that are starting a brewery.
Yeah, I've had conversations with friends like this is my idea for a possible space.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And I guess that's kind of where I'm like, I'm kind of stuck at, because I'm just like I want to keep progressing. But right now it's been fine. Like I'm just, getting more attention on the beer.
Yeah.
And it is.
Well, I think doing it naturally makes sense. Like Ruby said that, like what they're doing, like they're not trying to push anything specifically. Like they're just doing what they're doing, and when things come naturally as far as like growing their distribution, they're not. It makes sense like that, instead of like trying to like get sales somewhere and then like figuring out all the logistics behind it to like know.
There's a part of me I wish I could do more like food driven events and stuff.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to forget about that
Definitely.
part of the brand.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Like it's still like there's no permanent space for Concrete Blues right now. So I'm just doing whatever I can to just build the exposure on the brand. But again, it's been like super. I'm very thankful for the guys over at Meetinghouse and Carbon Copy, because they kind of help giving this brand a stage to to where it is now.
Well, I think you're helping them too. It's like part of their brand is that like they have Concrete Blues cask there. You know?
Definitely. I mean, I helped open their space.
Exactly. And it's part of what craft beer is. It's like it's part of it is like showing everybody this journey and like being open about the connections and definitely. Like helping people, and like that's why customers like it. And like when they see that Meetinghouse is giving you a spot like that, I'm sure a lot of people recognize that and they just come to Meetinghouse just for that.
Yeah, it's like, again, it's like when people are interested, that's really fun. I can talk about the beer.
So you're a bartender at I want to hear about the beer, but you're a bartender at Meetinghouse, and it's like people come in, they're like, well, what should I get? Is it just
well, no, I
pub
mean,
ale.
I love all three of the beers that we have on tap there.
Also, in a little bit of insider info, it's like you guys are pushing Guinness so hard.
Oh yeah,
it's like the number 4 Guinness account in the whole city. It's like how was that from the beginning? I mean, you said you were there from day one.
Yeah.
Was that always the plan from day one?
For sure. I mean, Colin and I talk about beer all the time. He's one that I've learned brewing from too, and we just talk about beer just like anybody else talks about beer.
Yeah.
And when I heard we were pouring Guinness there, I was like, oh, all right. But Guinness is gonna be Guinness, and it's cool seeing like everyone getting into it and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I don't try to push that as. I talk about all the beer, and I understand what we're doing there. It's not just a beer bar. It's actually looked at more as a restaurant than the beer.
I think the feel is much more of a restaurant than a brewery.
But it's fun to like talk to guests that are curious about the beer, and I can talk to beer, talk about beer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They say that like Meetinghouse is pouring some of the best Guinness in the city, like legitimately pouring. So I feel like you're kind of behind that then. Like you're pouring the best Guinness in the city.
It's fun to, put care into a product.
Yeah.
And
it's cool when it goes all the way down the supply chain like that to the customer. And like even with the pub system, like it's your own system behind the bar.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's not just when it gets you like the care is like through the brewery and then it gets packaged and then it just gets forgotten about. And like, but we cold condition but all the way through until you're literally handing a glass to the customer. Yeah. It's like some sort of craft, like the craft pour. It's like it's all part of the experience.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just the Guinness. It's everything over there. I mean, even when I pour a morning swim, I'm just like it's gotta have some nice foam on there.
Definitely.
Too. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a fun time over there, and it feels good being able to sell this product behind the bar too, and it does, when I do sell it that way, people are really into it. They're like, never heard of this style before. I never would think I would drink a beer that's pronounced bitter or something like that, and it's just funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is my go-to style of beer.
Nice, and 3.5%.
Yes.
Very crushable. So, can you talk a little bit about the beer itself? It's like, this is your.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as like recipes, this is like the third beer I'd say I brought onto like a larger scale.
Okay. Were they all English pub ales?
All English pub ales. When I generally into beer, I like all beer styles, but at home I just kind of, when I'm thinking of home brewing, I'm like, cool. All right, well, this is the recipe. I'll maybe mess around with different yeast strains or something like that. But, this recipe, I was like, this is like the perfect recipe for me, and I think
it's super balanced.
It's well balanced. It's something that's approachable, and when it's on cask, it's like eye catching. And
it's 3.5%, but it does have flavor. Sometimes when beers are like 3.5% or like below 4, really, it's like they're missing something.
Yeah,
this beer isn't missing anything. It's got some bite. It's got a ton of flavor to it.
Yeah.
It's super light bodied.
Yeah, thank you.
It's very crushable.
Yeah, it's I think it's a total different beer on cask, but I enjoy it out of the cans too, and the guys over there do an amazing job at brewing it, and that's like another plus. Like I love all the beers that they're producing out of there, and it was,
you gotta get
talked
to see,
about.
it's cool that you're seeing an inside look at two very great breweries.
Yeah, it's I learn a lot from those guys too, and we talk about beer all the time and what do we want to do different, or we talk about their beers, and it's like it's a nice relationship we got going, just being able to like brew beer,
definitely, especially the history that brew house itself, like the actual system itself.
Like
they've been brewing beer for like 25, 30 years on that system. Back when they made pub ales cool the first time 30 years ago, they were making beer on that thing.
It is cool, seeing what the space was before. And
I mean, even Ruby said that's where he first started brewing beer.
Yeah,
when he was in college. It's like,
that's crazy.
So you brought another beer for here. Can we talk about this a little bit?
So that's a beer from Suarez.
Yeah.
I went up there to brew with Dan.
Okay.
Dan Suarez. He's been into cask a lot lately. So that's his
Where are they
bitter.
based out?
Hudson,
Hudson,
New York.
Okay.
They're like one of the best breweries in the country.
I love. They're strong with the lagers.
Yeah.
And he's been doing the pub ales and stuff now too. And
nice.
Awesome pale ale as well.
I didn't know they were making pub ales, so you brought that in.
Their bottle program is also amazing as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were just chatting about bitter, and he's like, I'm actually brewing a batch soon. Do you want to just come up and hang for the brew day? And I was like, of course, it'd be fun. So,
yeah.
So that was a trip my wife and I took up to New York, and it's nice to get out of Philadelphia.
Definitely.
So
Hudson Valley is nice too.
Yes, it was. I think this was around like, I can't remember. November, yeah, last November, and drove up there and just got out of the city for a couple days, and we're just talking English bitter all day and brewing beer, and that's I don't know, like I think cask beer there's a niche crowd for it, and
there's a niche crowd now. 5 years ago, you said there's a niche crowd for lagers.
Yeah,
I think I don't know if English pub ales will get as big as lagers are now.
I mean,
but there's definitely a lot of energy coming.
For sure, yeah. I mean,
style.
I don't see why not. I think it's, I don't know. It's just the low
ABV, like approachability of it, I think is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I love, when I first got into craft beer, it was pastry stouts. Like I was like, this is great, and then it was like, all right, the IPAs and saison, and then I can go on, but as I get older and like kind of just honestly, it's kind of how I felt about food too. Like I was just like, and I can, not that I like only eat one thing, but I'm just saying like as far as like what I want to go with a beer, it's like, all right, I think this is what I want to have with a pub ale, or I don't know. It just,
I think it's like the self-actualization of being like a beer enthusiast. It's just like you go for like the craziest things first, and then it's like only IPAs or lagers, and then you come back to a self-realization of just like, no, I just want a normal pub ale.
I like where the beer industry is right now, where brewers are just, they want to brew what they want to brew. I think
so too. It's the craft beer sales nationally are down, and there's a lot of breweries closing, but I think it was needed, and I think that where craft beer is headed has a much better future than where it was 5 years ago. I think just like breweries have seen, like, they realize what they are in the community, what type of bars they are, and they're gonna be brewing beers for that type of crowd to come in.
Yeah, definitely. I like, for me, I just, again, I want to brew the beers that I like to drink. And I do have more plans for the brand besides just Alyston's Ordinary. But for now.
Also,
it's
by the
like
way,
really
I
important
love the
just to-
fact that you put your name on it. I say this all the time. When people put their name on it, I love it. It's like a stamp of like, this is mine, and it's like you're not hiding behind anything.
Yeah, for sure. People ask me that question often, and I basically just kind of wanted to follow suit with how all the other like English beers are
Just
out
names.
there. Just kind of like, just the name of the pub. Or I don't know. I just
very
wanted
ordinary
to,
name.
just this. I'm not really good with the whole name thing, anyways. So I was just like, this is the beer that I like to drink, and I think it's a nice ring. So
yeah, there's no reason to like put some crazy spin on it.
This crazy paragraph of a beer title. I don't need any of that.
Full sentence. So what? So you do have, like I said, I don't know much about you or your brand. Oh, now I do, but like coming into this, but you are seeing your brand everywhere. I mean, that's why we had you on here, because I feel like even Dan said in Brewer Magazine or something.
Yeah,
it was in our post.
Yeah, that like that like you were his favorite beer right now, and it's I don't know, like your social media, like are you the one? I guess everything is you, right?
Yeah, it's all me. It's funny with the Instagram account. I like, it's been a couple things, and then I started the Instagram account. It's just like, I don't know if Instagram still has like you can title like the page or whatever, but I started as like a personal blog.
Okay, yeah.
And I was just like, I'm just gonna log like every sort of pub ale that I drink.
Yeah.
Post my home brews and my food, and
Yeah.
And then it became Concrete Blues, and I still run it like it's just a blog page or whatever.
But I think because the younger generation, kind of everyone's social media literate right now.
Yeah.
Like a very clean, crisp page that's branded and everything's perfect and looks exactly like. People are turned off by that. It just looks like it's very like corporate-ish brand. People want like this, not influencer, but they want like an inside look into what's actually happening.
Yeah,
they want it to feel real.
Exactly. Yeah, and I plan on doing that all the time.
Yeah,
if I have the time to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel like I mean, a part of me feels like I don't push the brand enough sometimes, but
well, when you start pushing it enough,
stop.
you're gonna be like so popular. I mean, I feel like you guys are everywhere. I see you guys everywhere. Just like, it's not just stuff that you're pushing. Like people will share stuff, or it's just like in the background or something. It's like I just feel like you're kind of like very quickly kind of jumping up into the scene.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't really. It's really whenever I'm behind the bar, when I hear people talk about it, or check on.
Has that happened? Like you're behind the bar, like people don't know that it's your beer, or it's always very awkward. It's happened a couple times. People like come up to me, like talk shit on me, and it's just like,
this
all
is
right. Nice.
No, I mean, I've definitely heard people say this is not their style of beer, and that's fine. Like I could care less.
Everyone has different tastes.
There's people ask me like, "Are you gonna brew anything else?" I'm like, not really. Like, if you want an IPA, like I can name like 8 other breweries that has IPA.
Yeah.
But I again, like I said, I do want to push other beers, and I have those beers in mind, but not now. I just want to focus
one step at a time.
I want this beer to be recognized, and the style I think deserves it because it's so good to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Dan actually, they're Force and Main. I would probably say is like the first fresh pub ale I've tried, just because we don't really get any of that imported.
Yeah.
And so I just fell in love with everything they were doing. I try to drive out there often and have some beers on their engine, and I get back to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But he actually designed the label, and I was like,
No way.
It made sense.
I was about to ask you who did the labels because it looks really nice.
Yeah, I didn't know too many other artists, and I love all of his artwork on the cans, especially like the pub ale stuff, and it just felt like a no-brainer to ask to produce the label, and
Definitely,
I think it's a cool label. It's something I think like. I just wanted to shoot for like a label that just has that like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but like the everyday beer type.
No,
of
it
feel,
looks normal,
you know?
but it doesn't look just basic.
Yeah,
it's like it's cool.
I thought having the cask handle on there was important, just to pay homage to cask beer, and I think it's the best form of casking this beer is in cask.
For sure. Yeah.
But, you can't say no to cans, so you gotta have some cans.
Definitely.
But yeah.
Do you sell any cans?
Yeah.
Do you sell them at Meetinghouse?
So, yeah, most of them have been going over the Meetinghouse, and I feel like they do really well there, and I don't know if it's because, like, I'm behind the bar there, but, or I would think that's probably the reason. But yeah, again, it's just like all the other, the stuff I try to push out. Rather it's like if someone's willing to bring in some kegs and cans, that's like a even better deal, I feel. Just because I don't have the space, so it's cool for people to see the can, and so I feel like the cans do better. I don't know. I don't really. Go to every spot and see if the beers are flowing. But I definitely try to, make stops and try like a pint at the bars and whatnot. But
make sure it's going right.
For the most part, it is. But yeah, I like having the cans, and I was like, maybe like, I'll put out a batch and then I'll produce one of the other ideas I have. But I was like, no, let's just focus.
I like the idea of it just being like one singular brand, because then you don't have to worry about like spreading out. Like you're not giving love to like all these different things. It's just like you're just giving love to this one brand. You can just grow that and then figure out everything else. Yeah, definitely. And the more I think, and I don't think like putting out 3 brands is gonna like change anything volume wise. You know? I just want people to get familiarized with the beer itself for now. But yeah. Nice. So I guess, you've talked about like plans to kind of do something else, but like, is there anything on the horizon, or like, is it just kind of like opportunities come and it's just like? Yeah, I'd say. I'm actively always looking for a space. Yeah. And I don't know. Well, let me know if you find one. I don't know if that's like the tap room first or a brewery space first. Yeah. It's just, and then again, it's like, it's hard for me because I don't have like anyone to like bounce ideas off of, or I talk to, I try to grab advice from the guys over at Carbon Copy, or I talk to Colin over at Meetinghouse, or Marty over there about, what should I do? But I don't know. I think I really would like to get a tap room open first, just so people can have a space to come try this beer all the time. And it's also like if you already have a safe way to like, contract brew it, and you have a great relationship, like this is kind of already your brand anyway. Like, for sure, yeah. You don't need to jump into a production space. Exactly. Just keep doing what you're doing and then add more headache to it. For sure. Exactly. That's kind of where I've been thinking. I do want to eventually brew the beer, and when the guys are, we're getting ready for brew day, cool, I'll go over there and brew with those guys, and that's fun. I think what you and I are doing, because we're kind of doing the same thing. Yeah. It's hard to go the opposite direction. It's hard to go from you're making your own beer to then somebody else is making it, because then the customer's like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. But if your brand is based off of the fact that you're openly talking about how you're contract brewing and this is just a step in the process, it's a lot easier than step into the role of you're then brewing it yourself.
For sure. Yeah, I do agree with that too.
A lot of hype too. Then once you get to that point,
it's a lot of hype, and then like you also like you can figure out the logistics. The same way that we talked about like naturally running into things. Yeah. If you can build the tap room first and then get your sales up, then you can worry about like whatever minor margin that you're getting by brewing your own beer.
Yeah,
and then figuring out that whole night. Same way I don't want to open up a kitchen. It's like figuring out the whole nightmare of like opening up a brew house is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. I'm trying to find a tap room first and then figure it out from there.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on neighborhoods? Like
no, I mean
I keep
because you're in Port Richmond right now. You said right?
Yeah, I'm in Port Richmond. Yeah, no, it really honestly like I don't know. It really depends on like what's out there, you know.
Yeah.
And you can only see so much on the internet, so I try to like get out and hit the streets and whatnot and see what's available or whatever. But it's still, I don't know. It's a weird spot for me right now where I'm just like I don't know if I'm ready yet, just because it's just still me. Yeah. And that's like a part where I'm like, oh well, I should try to figure out some sort of, I don't know, like team first, or I don't know. It's a lot to think about, but
I'm having the same conversations that keep me up till 3 a.m. every night. Yeah. It's just like I have a general plan of what I'm doing, and I have like some places that I'm looking at, but like a lot of it is like I know I obviously can't run a tap room by myself.
Yeah.
I obviously can't do the next steps by myself, but like what is the next step? Mm-hmm. Do you bring on a team first? But then like bringing on a team member like this from the beginning means that you either have to pay them, which I'm not even paying myself at this point, or you're giving them a part of your business.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, but like I have a lot of people that like I think I would work well with, but like you don't know that until like
for sure
you're gonna actually be ready to do it. But then also, what if you bring somebody on and then an opportunity opens up that has nothing to do with their specialty that you brought them on with?
Yeah.
So it's like this weird middle ground that I'm in, that you're in too. It's just like, all right, well, I need something to hold on to. I got a couple pieces that I'm holding on to right now, but it's like, it is very awkward where it's like,
I mean, we're also in a time where, I don't know, you can kind of take advantage of taking your time to
definitely. There's no rush to do anything, and breweries, restaurants, they have been going out of business. I think at least for the next 6 months to a year, there's going to continue to be more restaurants and breweries that go out of business. So I think that there still is time before you need to hurry up and do something. So just waiting for kind of the right opportunity, the perfect opportunity is kind of still the move right now.
And, not to say that, places going out of business is necessarily a good thing, but it is like a very saturated...
The circle of life, brother. It's like, if shitty places come up, like they deserve to go out. And it's like a lot of places, it's unfortunate situations, but they kind of put themselves there. And like, I know I'm going to kick myself in the ass, like if I fail one day, but it's like, it happens. But
yeah, it is a circle of life. Yeah.
Restaurants go out of business all the time. It's just kind of going into it, you have to be aware.
For sure.
You're taking an enormous risk by doing this.
Yeah, that's why for me it's like important to just always learn. Like I've always feel like I'm learning. Just, being in other spaces, and you take everything you learn from wherever you've worked or wherever you may have been in your life or whatever, and you put that to where you feel like you want your brand or your...
Well, you put yourself in like great situations right now.
I mean, I don't know. It's I don't know. I think
even like not just the people that you're working with every day, but just working at Meetinghouse. It seems like Meetinghouse is a place that other people in the industry come in to go to. So you're probably rubbing shoulders with a lot of people that like, it's not just the owners of Meetinghouse, but you're meeting a lot of other brewers.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's this. I'm meeting new people every day when it comes to the industry, and especially in Philadelphia where it's a very pretty tight scene. And, and it's cool seeing like everyone work together, trying to like push whatever that may be, you know.
Yeah, it is very hard. You know, it's like you have to do that.
Yeah. So as as far as where I'm at in my position, like I probably wouldn't be as out there if it wasn't for those guys. So I'm happy to do the same with being able to help them. Just stay afloat or whatever. And yeah, it is a fun opportunity to push a brand like this, where I'm working a lot, but I'm just trying to figure out what's the next move for the brand, and not to
not tarnish it in any way.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, honestly. But yeah, it's there's as for the brand, it is like a kind of a peaks and valley thing. Like it's like once I have a batch out, I'm like, all right, let's push it, and then I'm ready to like push another or get ready to brew another batch of beer or whatever. Or sometimes you don't feel like it's moving as fast, but then you're like, oh wait, like no one really knows about this brand, So it's
once you're in it, like you have no real idea in that sense.
Yeah.
Like it might feel that way sometimes, but then you look back, you're like, holy shit, like then I was able to accomplish all.
I think you're just so wrapped up in it. It's just like it's like constantly thinking about the moment, maybe. And it's just like, it is the peaks and valleys, but like overall, it's going well.
Yeah, I think everything's going well. I only hear positive things. Yeah. Which is great. And but yeah, there's always that thing where I'm just like, oh wow, I need to get a space open, or just like but again, I'm not trying to
But you have no pressure behind you. Like the worst thing to do would be to jump into a space. And now it's just like, well, now I need to sell a shitload of beer, else I'm gonna go bankrupt. Yeah. Like you don't have that pressure right now.
Yeah. There isn't that. I think a part of me is just like I'm just ready to just do this, Yeah. I think that's like I've been feeling that way for some years now. So I've started like a few other brands that are like unrelated to beer, and then I'm just like, oh, whatever, like that's not working out. And then
because you said before you had some connections to like the music industry, you were like touring.
Yeah, touring. There was a touring, and then clothing and stuff like that I was really into, which
has that helped you? Like are you pushing merch? I know you got the t-shirts and stuff.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I haven't really, again, I'm not like trying to beat myself over the head with that too much either, but at some point I really do want to like heavily brand this brand. It's something I've always had an interest in. So it's cool finally, like thinking back when I was in like high school, like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to have a brand, and seeing where this brand is now, it's just like, yeah, I'm doing something, So
we as I was prepping for, I guess, the last interview with Ruby, it's like there was some like article online. They read a book by actually this guy that we've been talking to. What's this guy's name?
Rich Wagner.
Rich Wagner. He wrote this book, Philadelphia Breweries, or Philadelphia Brewing.
Oh yeah.
It's like the history of breweries in Philadelphia.
I know about that book.
It was a great book. It was like 100 pages long, but it was just like a history of all the different breweries in Philadelphia. And when I read that book, like I was already brewing for like, a number of years. I already knew I wanted to open on my own place. But like reading about these places, just like, wait, you can be a part of history. You can be a part of culture. Like, yes, you look back like 60 years from now, and it's like, what was the culture of Philadelphia like? Part of that is, like the beer scene or craft beer scene.
For sure.
And being a part of that scene is cool. And once you're kind of plugged into the culture, you're like a part of the history then.
Yeah.
You're not just like some person
for
existing on this world, like you're adding to the enjoyment of other people. It's just like putting your own brand out there. It's like, giving that part of culture, adding to that culture to
For
Philadelphia.
Sure. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, it's part of why I want to really push the style of beer, just because you don't really see it anywhere, and it would be cool to have a space to come to and be like, oh yeah, I would like to go drink a cask beer,
And it's cool because like you are getting attention, like you are in a lot of newspaper articles, and it's like the new brewery that's making cask ale.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's not just, like, some brewery that's popped up, like, oh, we brewed a new cask ale. Like, no, we're a new, cool brewery, and we are only making this one cask ale.
For sure, yeah.
It's like you are pushing that, forwards of, like, the industry's moving in this direction.
Yeah, I think.
And to speak to that real quick, too, it's like a tasty, low ABV, like, approachable
It's
beer.
approachable, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, like, everybody knows, like, that's kind of where beer is moving at this point.
For sure.
And that's huge. And to be able to push that too, along with like your brand is you're in a good position sort of thing. Which is sick.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it's definitely a goal, just to have a space where these beers are always available, and there's
it's
food
like
program.
They got like people come up with like it's like all Lucre taps now, and it's like you're just gonna be like all of these goosenecks like behind the bar.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean,
it's gonna be.
I think.
I think they're better looking than the Lucre taps. I mean, the Lucre taps do pour great, but like the whole handle situation, like Lucre taps don't have that coolness. Yeah, it's very cool.
It's a good looking setup, and I think that's. The aesthetic, again, I could talk about that all day, but there's just something like that I think is like that's such an interest to me, and when people who aren't familiar to it, it becomes an experience,
Definitely.
Like, oh, let's go back to that place that had the cask beer, and I think,
and like you said, it changes every time. So it's just it's kind of the same, but it's like it's also slightly different every single time.
Yeah, and if you're, really into it, that's cool. Or if you were just like, I was just looking for a beer, great. Like this is a great sessionable beer, and I do think about that a lot too. Like if I'm not drinking, pub ale, I'm drinking lager, and everyone knows what a lager beer is, and I think everyone should know what a pub ale is.
Yeah.
And I think
it is cool. Like new craft breweries come up, and it's just like the people that kind of the titans of the industry that like came up 25 years ago. They had to teach people what craft beer was. But like new breweries, we don't have to teach anybody what the types of beers we have are. But you kind of do have to, like, even people that are like moderately into beer. Yeah. It's like they still might not understand what a pub ale is, and you get to actually go through and teach them something, expand their knowledge.
Yeah, and like it's fun to explain what cask beer is, because it is, there's always been like, I feel negativity with cask. It's just like, oh, it's warm, it's flat, but like when you get to actually like explain it, and and if people are adventurous and want to, try it, then it's like, oh, this is a great beer, and like I understand it. Like sometimes maybe it's not just like, I don't know, explained well enough.
Yeah, I think it's the same way.
I don't know. It's like a style that isn't very popular in the States, but I think there is a crowd for it, and when I do see that crowd, it's like, it's insane, It's like, all right, you get it,
Yeah, you said you went to London last year.
Yeah, yes, last year.
Yeah,
it's
last
2025
year.
Now, so I'm like, yeah.
And it's like the drinking culture over there is like, it's a whole nother animal.
Yeah, and I feel like, over there you see more of the like American style beers. Like there's more IPA, lager,
really,
hazy and stuff, and then over here everyone's like, I want to brew cask ale now, And I'm like, oh, cool, that's great, because more to check out for me.
Definitely.
And, but yeah, my trip was fun over there, and it was cool trying like, the cask beers over there, especially like the larger brands that I follow, like Timothy Taylor and London Pride, and those beers like you'd never see over here, or at least not on cask. And so it was an experience.
Those beers you get, and they're like 3 years old at the foodery, and it's just like
yeah, and that was like a thing where when I started brewing these beers, I was like, this is like, again, like some of the very first like pub ales I've tried that were like fresh were from either, Force Main or Bonn Place, and I'm like, oh, this is so good. Like this is this is what I want in a beer, like I really love like Mayor's Otter, like I think such an awesome base malt, and it brings so much flavor and
hand malted.
Yeah, and then I don't know. They're these beers, they're just great. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think it's great that like there's a new brewery that's coming out with this. Like it's cool that Forest Main has done it, but they're so cool. Like I feel like I don't know, like putting your hat on this, I think is it was like a bold step, but I think like like I said, like I'm hearing all about you, so it's
for sure. Yeah, a lot of people would say it's bold, and I just want to brew what I want to brew. Like I think. I don't know. I feel like you always hear the complaint, another brewery or something like that. But I think it's fine. Like, especially when people are.
There's a lot of breweries coming out, but like, when you look at a brewery, like it could be one of those, another one. Yeah. Or there's some that's like, all right, another one.
Yeah.
Like,
but like,
you're definitely not just like, ugh. Like,
I try, not to think that way. And I'm like, and there's. You're like, oh, they're doing their own, like they're not just following, like they're not just trying to be like a cash grab brewery, It's like you actually want to make beer and you actually care about beer, and I think that's cool because it's great to have a place that you can go to and you're gonna get a great beer and it's a style that you've been searching for or whatever. I don't know, like everyone has their thing. Everyone has their thing or what they want to put out, and there's a crowd somewhere where someone's gonna like it,
Yeah, I think it's like anything like an artist. If you're focused on what you're doing, other people are way more attracted to that than if you're looking around like saying like, who wants this? And it's like, I don't want. That sounds weird.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot. Like the whole brand being based off one beer, one cask beer. But like, I don't know, like I like that, like I like when there's a dialed in product and you have a go-to. I have my go-to beers. I'm sure you guys have your go-to beers, and
I think it's much better. I think you're able to focus on it. You're able to like nurture this one brand. It's just like there's no reason to. I mean, you said you want to brew a couple other things, but like, there's no reason to just like spread yourself thin and like,
for sure,
try to get stretched out.
Yeah, that's the important part too. There's, especially when you're gonna like, it's like a slim crew or whatever, and you can only put so much focus on so much.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I feel like I learned that in cooking, where it was just like, I want to do this, and I want to do that. I think this would be a cool idea, but it's just like, try to perfect,
if your menu is like, crazy, and then you have like all these ingredients that you only use once. It's like the people that are like efficient and just focus on like what they can do and just make it better.
Yeah,
I think those are the ones that really succeed.
Yeah, I like the fact that I don't know. Just having something dialed in, a nice balance, and you take care of something, and this is up to par. This is where you want it to be. Like, I think that's the best part about it. Instead of having this like extraordinary menu for trying to reach everyone, you know.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. You're not gonna reach everyone.
Yeah.
So, and if you do, that's great. But I don't know. I don't think that's
Just focus on your people, and then everyone else will
yeah,
come.
for sure.
Cool. Well, I guess, do you have anything to plug? I think that's about an hour. So do you have anything coming up, or where can we find you?
Yeah, I mean, I would follow Concrete Blues _ on Instagram. That's probably I'm the busiest on that, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like doing events if possible, whenever I can find the time or whenever there's an opportunity. But this beer's around.
Definitely a meeting house. Come by.
Definitely
say
a
hello
meeting
to
house,
me.
but also check your local, distributors or beer bars.
Ask for Concrete Blues.
Ask for Concrete Blues.
For
Yeah.
Space Cadet.
Yes.
And
No, I've seen your beer around though. It is cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
So it's nice to actually sit down and I was like, all right, I didn't even know it was you at first. I was just like, what is this Concrete Blues thing?
Yeah.
And then I started to see you. I was just like, all right, I don't know. Let's get you on the podcast and figure this out.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me. This is a good time.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then you can follow us at Brewdat, at the Brewdat podcast. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cheers.